Hello, everyone, and welcome to our webinar today, COVID-19 Employee Benefits Panel. Everyone here at Discovery Benefits, a WEX company, hopes that you and your families are safe and well during these unprecedented times. We know that all of you are doing the best that you can to protect and support your own workforce, as well as your customers, friends, and families. And we're here to help, and there are a number of ways that we can offer assistance during this time. We've brought together a panel of experts to talk through some of those options for you and to help answer any questions that you might have. We are also offering additional webinars in the coming weeks around COBRA as well as FSA expenses. Some of these will be offering SHRM continuing education credits. My name is Mandy Finke, and I'm the Director of Customer Communications here at Discovery Benefits, and I'll be your host today. We'll be using both the Q&A and the chat options. Q&A is the best place to enter your questions throughout the presentation. We'll be pulling some of those most common questions from our Q&A to ask our panelists. If you're experiencing any technical issues, please use the chat option. Please keep in mind that this is a live webinar in a group setting, so we won't be able to publicly answer any questions regarding specific employee situations to protect their privacy. The information that we will be sharing in this webinar is for educational purposes only, and it is not legal or tax advice. For legal or tax advice, you should consult your own counsel. Now, our experts will be sharing information with you about several different options available to help your employees during this time and answering your questions throughout the panel discussion. There is a chance this webinar will take longer than 30 minutes. We don't want to cut off any good conversation, so if you can stay longer, please do. Now, we will be recording and sharing the recording with you along with other resources available at our website, which you'll see in chat, as well as sending you a follow-up email with recording and resources as well. At this time, I'd like to introduce our moderator for our panel today, Andy Doden. Andy is the Senior Vice President of National Sales at Discovery Benefits, a WEX company. Andy, I'll turn it over to you to introduce our additional experts.
Thank you, Mandy, and thank you to the entire team who has been able to bring together this opportunity to review some of the offerings we're bringing to the market here. I know there's been a lot of hard work going on, and it's been with urgency and speed to serve our clients. On behalf of our team, we'd just like to share that we're excited to be with you today. Unfortunate for what we're going through as a country and a world, and everybody has been impacted in some way, shape, or form. And so on behalf of Discovery Benefits, a WEX company, just want to empathize with you all. I have a special spot in my heart for HR, and I can't imagine what you all have gone through. I know our HR team has been working tirelessly through the last 3 to 4 weeks here. So thank you. And based on the conversations that I've had with HR teams over the past few weeks, you should be or need to be recognized even more. So I just want to start with that today to call you out, as I know the pressure you're under as you're making major decisions is immense. So for you to even take some time to spend with us today is meaningful and humbling, and we're going to try to make it as valuable as possible for you. But if you take nothing away from the call today, I hope you're encouraged in what you're doing on a day-to-day basis, just on behalf of our overall organization. It's our commitment to you all and your employees that we bring innovation to the market and value through our service, through people, through technology, and through products at the right time, and that's what we're proud of, that we've been able to stand up here over the last couple weeks. Our goal is to bring clarity around a few new products and features that we're having some fantastic conversations with brokers, consultants, and employers, whether they're current or prospects. And so I'm going to first start out today just by introducing the panel. We've got a great group of people that are with us today. Jeff Bakke is the Executive Vice President and Chief Strategy Officer at WEX Health. Jeff leads the healthcare strategy for WEX, including distribution, product, and corporate development. He works with WEX's largest partners to assist with strategy and ensure alignment with the goals of WEX. Jeff has been with the organization for 15 years and was instrumental in leading the team that built what is now the industry's leading consumer benefits accounts, WEX Health Cloud. Thank you for being with us today, Jeff.
Great to be with you, Andy. Thank you.
Next is Matt Dallahan. He has contributed in the healthcare industry for his entire 26-year career, 19 of those being with WEX. And if you can look back with me for a moment, this was prior to HRAs and HSAs being a product even. So he has a long-standing commitment to this industry and an innovator and a true leader. And we want to welcome you to the call today, Matt.
Thanks, Andy. I feel really old now.
Hey, you're just wise. Thanks for joining us. Last but not least, probably the most relevant panelist, Kelly Hockett. For the past 15 years, Kelly has served DBI, a WEX company, in many different impactful roles. Currently, she is the Senior Vice President of Software Solutions for Discovery Benefits, a WEX company. She has been influential in building out the platforms, products, and features that our clients and their employees utilize on a day-to-day basis. We're glad to have you as part of the discussion today, Kelly. Welcome. We have had a very robust conversation earlier today when we hosted this conversation with brokers and consultants, and a lot of questions were asked. So please do use the Q&A feature here that we can get to many of your questions today, as we're excited to make this as interactive as possible. But first, we'll just start with a high level, a few questions for the panel, and I'll start with you, Matt. Obviously, a lot has gone on over the past few weeks here, but can you give us some insight as to how you've prepared the platform as well as the service for situations such as this over the years?
Sure, Andy. Yeah. So, we obviously invest a lot in technology, and really our goal for the platform has always been for it to be a platform where partners can really build out, unique products that they need in order to serve their employer customers and employees. And so, flexibility, the ability to easily customize the platform have really been a big focus, as well as ensuring that the platform is going to perform and scale in important times like open enrollment and at times like this. So, we've been really encouraged by our ability to help provide some solutions that maybe can help employers and employees at such a difficult time.
Great, thank you. And Jeff, I'll turn to you now, and from a Chief Strategy Officer standpoint, how do you see the situation impacting the industry overall?
Yeah, it's Andy, it's like nothing we've ever seen. Obviously, everyone on this call knows this is unprecedented. I hear that word all day, every day. I think no matter how prepared each company has been for business continuity, even if they were ready for a global pandemic, I don't think anyone really appreciated just how disrupted the whole economy, the way workers think and work. And right now, there's just very little clarity as to when things will ever get back to where they were, several months ago. How each company is uniquely managing through this crisis, how their priorities are changing for the long term of their business with the economic downturn, how companies have their employees in a new workplace environment, thinking about culture, performance management, benefits, all of these things are adjusted dramatically in the last month or so. And then, of course, most importantly, how are employees going to adapt, especially if we stay this way for many months to come? All this is happening at a time when business strategies overall are changing very quickly with the fastest moving economic crisis in modern history. And the level of unemployment, access to capital, all these things are just moving so quickly. So we think about, what do you do in a time of uncertainty? We all need to be very fast and very flexible. I think the bottom line for everyone on this call is that employees need their employers and human resources more than they ever have, probably in history. This is the time when HR can truly be the hero that we all need. So thanks for taking time and joining us today.
Yeah, well said. I can't agree more. Kelly, I'll turn to you, and from your seat, how are you viewing the climate that we're currently in today?
Yeah, great question. What has really stood out to me over the last couple of weeks is how many of our clients are coming to us and looking for solutions and looking for ways that they can reimburse their employees that may be facing some financial burden, that maybe have had to incur expenses such as internet and, backup daycare, but also coming to us and looking for ways to promote well-being for their employees, given that there's social distancing and isolation. So that has really stood out to me, just the response from employers looking to aid their employees during this time and try and help any way that they can. Even the response today and the number of participants is just really incredible from, how we interact with employers and employees. So thank you all.
Yeah, I mean, it's an unbelievable relevant time to help employees when, we have these products to offer here. And again, I think the conversations we're having both with employers and with brokers and consultants are fast and furious around these key topics. So we're excited to get in. So we'll start first with the emergency spending account. And Matt, I'll again go back to you on this. Just give us a high level of what this emergency spending account is and how employers are looking to use it.
Sure. Andy, the idea behind the emergency spending account is really, as we think about, employees in very different circumstances across the country. We have some employers where they need their folks to be at work. We have others who are working from home, and then we have others who, honestly, because of the industry they're in, maybe aren't able to work at all. And so really the idea behind the emergency spending account was really to provide an account where an employer could provide some dollars to employees to cover some everyday expenses and really help offset some financial burdens that maybe employees are experiencing. So it could be groceries, it could be daycare, it could be home office setup, utility bills potentially if folks are seeing a need for for example increased bandwidth. So just given the unique circumstances that we find ourselves in, the emergency spending account is really designed to allow employers to help out their employees in any way that they can. And so that's really the idea behind it. It's typically going to be offered on a post-tax basis, and really the big determiner here is largely going to be on an employer-by-employer basis. What's their budget to be able to potentially do something like that, and we'll see obviously some variance there. One of the key components of this also is the ability, via a card, for example, to vary where those funds maybe can be used. So the technology provides a little bit of certainty around, it can be used potentially for groceries, but maybe, lock it down so that it can't be used for other types of expenses, depending on what types of goals that you're after with the program and how you want those dollars to be used.
That's great, and tons of flexibility, right? We're seeing employers that want to backdate it to March 1st, for instance, or they want to set it up for 2 months and see how long this pandemic goes on, and they can then extend it to 3 months. So I think the flexibility of the emergency spending accounts on the overall plan, start dates and end dates is there for the employers to choose from as well.
Yeah, no question about it. And that's really the name of the game, right? Again, different employers are going to have very different needs, and so that flexibility is key. Yeah,
great. Kelly, I'll turn it over to you on the disaster relief payments under the Section 139. Can you give us a high-level view of how these are being used and what employers are looking for?
Yeah, absolutely. So as Andy mentioned, disaster relief payments are under the IRS code of Section 139. And anytime that there's been a federally declared disaster, an employer is able to reimburse their employees for expenses deemed reasonable and necessary. So we've seen, disaster relief payments in times of floods and hurricanes, more of your natural disasters. So the first time this section of the code has ever been used for a pandemic. So really looking at, employers are able to use the Section 139 and give tax-free payments and reimburse their employees for any expenses deemed reasonable and necessary. Now, given we've never used this portion of the code, some things, that could be reimbursed under the 139 would be anything for personal, family, living, worst case funeral expenses as the result of COVID-19. So very similar to what Matt just talked about when you get into expense types, it could be, home office setups. It could be increased household bills such as utilities, internet expenses, daycare. The employer is able to really work with their tax advisor and determine, what is reasonable, what is necessary based off of the types of expenses their employees have had to incur because of this pandemic.
Yep, that's good. And like the flexibility of the emergency spending account, backdating it, Can you give us some
Yeah.
ideas around the plan design and, yeah?
Yeah, great. Thank you for bringing that up. Yeah, so the plan itself, or the payments, need to be issued after after March 13th, when this was a federal disaster was declared by President Trump. So not as much flexibility from the emergency spending account when it comes to the date of expenses. It would need to be on or after that March 13th date.
Yeah. So we're seeing some employers start with an emergency spending account or ask questions around that up to that date and then turn it into a disaster relief payment. Also, there's a lot of flexibility around how long this plan is in place, which is a nice feature. And we're very flexible as an organization to be able to ebb and flow with. Of course, we want it to end soon, but if it continues on, adapt.
Yeah.
And Jeff, lifestyle spending accounts, you know, we've still had conversations around these over the last few weeks here. You want to give us your thoughts on how these are playing a role through the environment we're in?
Yeah, absolutely. So whereas emergency spending accounts and these disaster relief for qualified tax exempt spending accounts are very temporary, and they're purposeful about the situation that we're in right now. Lifestyle spending accounts have been around a long time. We have got, of our 390,000 employers, you know, many of them that are using these lifestyle spending accounts today, and it's kind of been the foundational chassis for a lot of these other products. But what we've noticed in the last several weeks is employers who are kind of urgently wanting to activate these capabilities, either because they were thinking about providing a fitness benefit and now they see all of these employees working from home that need, you know, frankly, a different kind of benefit. They want some online capabilities to exercise at home, right? So when we think about well-being as a broad category, this is the product that you want to roll out. As you said, this is something that we were contemplating before. We want to make it permanent. You know, this is going to run with your traditional benefits or your typical benefits that you're offering employees today. But the ability to activate these at any time exists. And so we've seen a number of employers who've jumped on this now as a good opportunity to add this to their benefits capabilities.
Yeah, well said. And I think I go back to the most relevant conversations we're having across sales and client services right now are around the first two products. Lifestyle spending accounts a little less, but the immediate need, of course, is the first two products we talked about there. Natalie, if you want to go on to the next page, a couple things. Mandy is going to continue to provide the landing page within the chat feature. You have access to this information as well as other features and products that we have available to you as employers. And then I just turn it over to you, Mandy, as well to see if any questions have come in from the clients on the phone today. I will.
Thank you, Andy. I do have. Yeah, thank you, Andy. Kelly, I do have a question for you. What expenses have you seen trending for what people are looking to reimburse?
Yeah, daycare, you know, extended daycare, backup daycare, that is trending from an expense list. Also looking at home office setup, increased utilities such as someone having to, you know, increase their internet or have their house have internet come into it. So those are some of the trending types of expenses. On the lifestyle spending account, really kind of as Jeff mentioned, those wellness type apps, maybe it's a therapy app, you know, all those types of technologies are being used to connect with employees right now. So seeing that as a trending expense too.
Thank you, Kelly. In regards to dependent care expenses, there are some questions. Has there been any legislative changes around dependent care FSAs? And what can we do to help support employees in regards to dependent care expenses changing?
Who wants to take that one?
Yeah.
So I can take the legislative piece. There haven't really been any major changes around legislatively around dependent care expenses, and so I know there are some questions around, hey, if folks don't have a need for dependent care right now because maybe they're working at home or something along those lines, how can they can access those dollars? And unfortunately, there hasn't been any kind of legislative relief around that one. I think that one of the things that we have been seeing, as Kelly kind of touched on, is, some needs around expanding the definition of a dependent care provider. Maybe it's getting some help from family members or older siblings, those kind of things. And that's one of the things I think we are seeing in some of these programs, disaster relief payments, for example, and emergency spending accounts, is sort of a specialty kind of dependent care program and expanding some of those definitions around, what's an eligible care provider. Kelly, Jeff, I don't know if you'd add anything else.
No, I think you got it.
And from my standpoint, Mandy, it's been healthcare driven around daycare expenses, and I just add that we're seeing opportunities right now across all segments of employer sizes as well as industries. And there's a serious need out there today, and so I just want to remind the client base of that, whether you're in hospitality, whether you're in healthcare, people are reaching out to have these conversations right now.
Thank you, Andy. One of the questions that came up was regarding the plans again. What is the benefit of putting money in these accounts rather than just paying like a bonus, for example? I don't know if that'd be Matt or Kelly that would like to answer that one.
I can hit this one if you want. I would say that if you're using this as wage replacement, you can't. The Section 139 plans are very specific about not using these products for wage replacement in this disaster relief context. If you want some control and you want to track this, if you want to have flexibility in how much you're contributing over a time period, if you want to have employees really sort of appreciate it, I think there's an opportunity to use these accounts to do that. And in particular, it is a tax exempt product, in particular that Section 139 plan.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the other thing that I would mention is, the way these are being set up is that typically these are notionally funded and not cash funded accounts, and so think of it as the money is going out when it's spent, and so as opposed to paying via a bonus, as I think the question suggested, where the money is sort of dispersed all on day one. Here, the money would only disperse as it was spent by the employee, and so I think that's another kind of another benefit of handling it via one of these, in addition to some of the things that Kelly and Jeff have already mentioned.
Yeah.
And I think to add to that, Matt, earlier today on our call, you talked about the difference between the funding of these type of plans versus if it's an HSA client, what type of features do we have in place that can help in that situation?
Sure. Yeah, I think, for an HSA, and look, as we said, there's different employers in very different circumstances right now, and so we get that very much. And so if one of these programs maybe doesn't necessarily make sense right now, an easy thing that you can do if you're offering an HSA, we offer a feature where employees can get access to future contributions in advance, so they can get access to them now. And then the HSA Advance allows a really easy way as payroll contributions come in later on to kind of repay those advanced contributions. And so it's a really nice feature. Hasn't had as wide uptake recently, but we are seeing a lot of interest in it now as, again, just a way to get some cash flow help out to employees. And again, it's a very easy thing to turn on and repays automatically as contributions come in. So it's a really great option if you have an HSA.
Yeah, and just to add some regulatory notes on that, if you have a high deductible plan with an HSA today, covering any COVID-19 expenses, whether they're testing or treatment of any COVID-19 related expenses, the IRS has already said that would not impact HDHP or HSA eligibility. So that specific expense, whether you expand your health plan coverage or you use one of these vehicles to reimburse employees for those treatment of COVID-19, does not impact HSA eligibility.
Thank you, Jeff. One of the questions is in regards to the taxable treatment. So for the 139 plans, it says in the chart that they're tax-free for employees, but is it tax-exempt for employers as well?
Yeah, that's a great question. It is a tax deductible for the employer. So yeah, great to call that out.
Perfect. Thank you, Kelly. And then also, does it matter what the size of the company is for these plans? If they're a small employer, a large employer, can anyone utilize one of these plans and set them up for their employees?
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. And we're seeing it across all sizes of employers looking to add these types of arrangements. So there isn't one size of client that is looking to add these. It's really all over the board.
Got another great question from one of our attendees. Now, pairing these plans with an existing FSA, HSA, are there any implications to that, or can they really be paired with any of those plans?
Yeah, they can. Really no challenges there with pairing a disaster relief payment and an FSA. There is no, nothing to be aware of there from like ineligibility, things like that.
Perfect. And then similarly, from an account standpoint and the usability of these plans, what would that look like for employees if they already have an existing FSA or HSA?
Yeah, that's a great question. So it's really the same, online account, mobile app that they will see these accounts online. So if they're looking to, very easy for them to go online and get reimbursed for, whatever eligible expenses that employer is looking to reimburse. So if it is daycare, if it is home office, they'll be able to go online and select those expenses and then be reimbursed quickly.
Yeah, and to the extent that there's a debit card under consideration, I think that's something we'd want to work closely with you on, depending on the type of benefit that you're considering for one of these, and just to make you aware of some, what that experience could be like and kind of how that might go. But if it's separate benefits or separate types of expenses that you're looking to cover, it'll be a pretty seamless experience for the consumer to get access to it.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Matt. I know we are still getting tons of questions in our Q&A, and I know we're getting right up on that 1:30 mark. So we understand if you have to leave at this point, we certainly understand that. Again, we are recording this presentation. We'll have that available on our COVID-19 page. You can access that from discoverybenefits.com. And we're going to, if you can stay with us, please do. We're going to continue to answer some of these questions that are coming in.
And I just add a couple of things. If you're wondering how you can get more resources, head out to the landing page. You can also reach out to your broker and consultant for information, and they can work with the sales director here at Discovery Benefits, or you can reach out to our client services team. So there are multiple ways for next steps that you can work with. I think one of the key areas that would be impactful to discuss is just this idea of COBRA and furlough and direct bill. So I'll just preface it by saying, our ability to handle all situations, we have the delivery of the product there. We just need to take your guidance onto, what's happening with the furlough. And so you and your organization obviously make that recommendation. We would be able to administer that for you. Also, the Discovery Marketplace is gaining a lot of traction right now. It's an alternative to COBRA. So if you are a company that's in the unfortunate situation to have layoffs, we have some resources that could help you all in those situations as well. And it's also a great benefit for your employees to find other options, maybe other than COBRA out there. So I wanted to just talk briefly about that. But if Matt and Jeff, if there are other items that you want to discuss here, just from a macro level on what we can offer through this time, feel free to add some color.
The one thing I would just say about COBRA, the way unemployment works is being changed. And if you saw the 6.6 million new unemployment claims this last week, should make everybody a little bit weak in the knees because there's quite a wave coming here in terms of that. Furlough is a sort of non-technical term, to put it lightly. And so if your company is contemplating furlough and some of these things, usually the way I think about it is if the employee loses access to benefits, that's when COBRA kicks in. But in a lot of cases, we're seeing employers who are looking for direct billing during this period because they're not able to do payroll deduction. And so just know that, you know, we have that span of capabilities to handle the situation, whether it's COBRA needs or it's direct billing while you have employees who are not collecting income during this time period. So just be aware of that and make sure you know very clearly who's going to have access to benefits, who isn't, because that'll determine, you know, the pathway forward for a lot of that stuff.
Yeah, the other thing I'd throw in there, Andy, is we are seeing a lot of things happening at the state level in terms of, you know, grace periods being extended on payments and those kind of things. And so, you know, if we run into a scenario where you feel like that's going to be applicable, you know, in particular to COBRA, we can certainly accommodate, you know, a variety of things there in terms of extending grace periods and you know, accommodating those types of things. So I know there's a lot of moving pieces right now at sort of every level of government and otherwise, and so I thought I'd throw that one in there as well.
Yeah, thank you, Matt. And Mandy, attendance is staying very strong, so I'm going to turn it over to you, as I'm sure many people have the same questions on the top of their mind. So go ahead and we'll do our best to answer those.
Perfect, thank you. I have a COBRA-related question. Unfortunately, will be putting some of their employees, terminating some employees. They'll have a loss of coverage. They'll be offering COBRA. They want to know what they can do to help support their employees and potentially cover some of those costs of COBRA coverage.
Mm-hmm. I can take that. We are seeing employers, you know, in that situation, you know, subsidize a portion of that premium. So, you know, we're able to work with those employers and set up those subsidies to reduce that, you know, premium amount that's going out on the paperwork for those qualified beneficiaries.
Perfect. Thank you, Kelly.
Yeah.
There's a question around manual or maximum annual contributions. So we know FSAs and HSAs have maximum annual contributions to those from an employer standpoint, or these plans that we're looking at. Is there a maximum that they should be aware of?
No, there really isn't. Oh, go ahead.
No, it's okay, Kelly. You go for it.
Yeah, there isn't a maximum. I mean, really, it's up to the employer to determine, you know, how much they're looking to contribute into these plans, and it really varies based off the type of account that they're looking to implement. So it could be somewhere, you know, $100, could be up to $400. It's really the employer's determining that. Jeff, anything to add there?
You know, I think, you know, again, where you want to be careful on the Section 139 plan is that it can't be wage replacement. So again, reasonable and necessary expenses, but there's no statutory. These are not sort of qualified health benefit types of programs. These are very flexible and depends on the employer's, you know, your budget, your willingness and capability, you know, in a time of great uncertainty to help your employees out with these types of things.
Thank you, Jeff. One of the questions, and Andy, I'm going to defer this to you, was how quickly can we implement one of these plans?
Yeah, I mean, speed's the name of the game right now for us. We're prepared to help quickly from understanding the goals of the plan that they're putting in place through the sales process to turning around a proposal and working with that HR, you know, contact on making the best decision possible. And then, you know, our onboarding process at speed, and we're prepared for it. So these are a lot of existing clients on our calls today, and we have plans built in the system if you're a benefits, you know, client. And so we have enabled all teams across our services and onboarding to be ready for this. Thank you, Andy. I know we're getting quite a few questions around FSAs,
in particular around qualifying events. So I just wanted to reinforce for everyone that we will actually have an FSA 101 coming up in a couple weeks. We're going to really dive deep into what an FSA is, what a qualifying event is, what those different types of FSA accounts are. You can go to our webinar landing page that we'll put into chat right now to register for those upcoming webinars. And we will also be offering more COBRA webinars in the future as well, because we know these are certainly needs right now, and we want to make sure that we have the time to help answer those for you. So I know we have a lot in this Q&A, so I'm just doing my best to make sure that we've answered some of these questions. If you still have a question that you have asked but we have not brought it to the panel, please feel free to add that now at this time as well. Can you provide a scenario? An employer chooses to offer a disaster relief payments. What are the basic steps doing so?
Yeah, I can take that one. First and foremost, I would have them work with their tax advisor to make sure that, the plan works for them. And also, really kind of outlining what that program is. What are they looking to reimburse? What is the start date and end date that they're looking to have the payments issued? And then really laying out which types of expenses they've deemed reasonable and necessary given the situation that their employees have faced. So really calling those out in a program outline and making sure that there's communication, using that as a communication guide to the employees to let them know we are looking to reimburse you for these types of expenses between these dates, and let them know who the administrator is so that they can be reimbursed. That's where I would start when looking to implement. I mean, make sure that, you speak to those tax advisors and then start to think about, okay, what's this, what's the design? What are we looking to deem reasonable and necessary to issue payments to employees?
Perfect.
Yeah,
thank you, Kelly.
And again, not providing any legal or tax advice, but you don't need a plan document. You probably should document what it is.
Yes.
Communicate to employees what it is, but don't think about this like setting up a flexible spending account. It's not that complicated, frankly. It's more a matter of just describing it, making sure you communicate to employees what it is, providing eligibility, obviously, and those kinds of basic fundamentals. But it's something that can be done very quickly.
And another thing we've committed to is custom claim forms to match what you're offering for your employees. And so we would work with you on that through the onboarding process to make it simple and easy so that these individuals can get their dollars quickly. As you can see, there's no substantiation requirements on the ESA and the DRP. So, it's meant to be as easy as possible in these types of scenarios.
Thank you. And then similarly, so no plan document, what about non-discrimination testing? And then also setting up who is available or who can get certain reimbursements.
I think so that's the eligibility piece, and I think you have a lot of flexibility here. I probably wouldn't advise anyone on non-discrimination testing. We don't know. I'll be honest. We don't know on that one. This is so new and unprecedented. I think you're going to want to talk to your attorney about that. But as far as flexibility in terms of who gets how much and for what, we have a lot of room to move within the definition that the IRS provides right now. I don't know if Kelly or Matt or Andy you'd add to that, but so far that's the way we see it.
Yep, I would agree.
What about options for employers that are trying to, maybe their employees aren't in the office, they're not working, I don't know if the term for that would be furlough, but if they're trying to collect premiums from, or not premiums, but just payments for different plans from their employees, is it COBRA, is there direct bill solutions? What's the difference of those, and when will they implement one or the other?
That's direct bill.
Yeah, so within our COBRA platform, we're flexible, and so whatever the employer deems to administer, we can handle both scenarios, right? Kelly mentioned the flexibility around subsidies on COBRA. We can offer the direct bill offering in certain circumstances that apply as well. Absolutely.
Yeah, when you think about direct bill, I mean, we can work directly with that employee to capture that payment from them, through a variety of different payment mechanisms, just as we do on COBRA today. So we've got, a lot of options there that employees can take advantage of.
Yeah, these aren't newly created, right? We manage retiree populations with this sort of billing arrangement. There's a lot of infrastructure and history and experience and technology behind it to make it easy for the HR department to manage these situations.
One last question for today. What else should we be thinking about for our employees?
Great question. I think empathy right now is number one. Like I said at the beginning, I think employers are going to appreciate HR more than they've ever appreciated HR in the 25 years I've been in this business. It's a great opportunity to help employees, whether it's helping cope with the situation and these kinds of things, whether it's financial support like we're talking about here. This stuff will hopefully accrue to your organization's loyalty and future hiring and retention capabilities. It's sort of how well you manage in good times versus how well you manage in some really tough times right now. This is a great opportunity to shine.
Yeah, and I think the needs really do vary depending on the kind of industry that you're in. The healthcare industry right now, hospital systems, those kind of things. They're in obviously full swing, and so you've got a lot of folks who are worried about what's going on the home front and how do I take care of, make sure my family is taken care of. And so, we offered some of these things, whether it's child care assistance or, some of these emergency spending programs to maybe try to help out with those things. For folks working from home, it maybe is a different set of circumstances, right? I mean, I've heard from some folks just personally on my team around, geez, I've got my kids, they're doing distance learning and feeling some stress around how do I balance working at home and being productive with trying to make sure the kids are taken care of. And so, I'd say, flexibility around, how and when they're getting their work done is obviously maybe a self-evident answer, but I think something that really kind of hit home for me the other day, we had a video conference and one of my folks was there holding the baby on her arm, and so it was a good reminder to me to just really try to counsel, hey, we'll be as flexible as we can, and we'll work with you to try to get those things done. And those would be a couple of ones that I'd throw out there. And, again, speaking more from my own experience.
Yeah, and I just add, everybody's running. I empathize with HR right now specifically. We're all running very thin, we're emotional, we're mental worn down, and so it's just high level of awareness as we lead, across the board. I just respect what everybody's doing. Everybody's doing tremendously to try to bring different solutions. I know our organization has stepped up incredibly, and you're trying to balance running a business and trying to meet some goals with trying to lead your employees when they are learning from distance and they are dealing with 2-year-olds on their lap when they're working. And so it's just this, we're going to learn a lot from this, but what I've seen, not only from our company but others, is that we're adapting, we're flexible, and we're supportive. And I think that from an employee standpoint, that's what I'd be looking for. So as we leave today, I guess from my standpoint, again, we've had some great discussions. I'm sure there's still some questions lingering out there. Our service team, they're meeting all SLAs right now. We're here to help and answer questions, so feel free to reach out in any way, shape, or form that we can support you as you navigate through all these waters here. So, just a genuine thank you, and I think we're all in this together. So have a great afternoon, and again, we'll be sending out some follow-up information after this for your resources as well. So everybody have a great day.
Thank you.